have a topic that I pulled from one of the parenting groups.
Okay.
This will be interesting. The parent says, what can be done about a roommate who doesn't clean at all? She goes on to say, they share a kitchen and a bathroom. She leaves every weekend and will put all of her dishes from her room in the sink, then go. My daughter said she's the only one who cleans, takes out the trash, cleans the bathroom, etc. Then the girl snuck her boyfriend in and they smoked weed in the bathroom. What you got?
Request a new roommate. My first answer would be request a new roommate. First, I'd talk to her. Like, listen, I don't want to clean up behind you. Like, you need to just have a candid conversation. I don't want to clean up behind you. We all need responsibilities. Either we're going to divvy up the days in which we do certain chores, or I do mine, you do yours, but you have to do yours. See, here's the thing. You could, like, leave her dishes aside, you know what I'm saying? But then you could create rodents by leaving her dishes aside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now that impacts her, the person who is actually cleaning.
Right.
So short of getting a new roommate, we need to have a down-to-earth conversation, and we need to divvy up the chores. And honestly, if she doesn't clean now, she's probably not good at it once she starts. Do you know what I'm saying? That's a problem.
Yeah, we've seen this before. I've seen this before. So I'm jumping back to my undergrad years. In my freshman dorm, I've seen that before. One filthy roommate and one person who was more my friend, who I didn't no longer want to hang out in their room because your room
it was just nasty.
is nasty, bro. And quite honestly, that's gonna happen because not every family is the same.
Right.
And it's not that necessarily a parent or household launched a kid who's dirty, but they may have done the opposite. They may have launched a kid who was under their thumb with all the chores and everything, so much so that they're now in there experiencing their freedom, and they're like, I don't have to do this crap anymore. Yeah. Not realizing that you kind of do because it's a citizenship thing. I mean, you're sharing space with a person.
One thing that we have as parents looked back at and said, when they hear it from someone else, not the regular people that they're used to hearing it from and they tune out, when you hear it from other people, you may see it differently or you may actually hear it. So maybe if the roommate had actually said something more than once, maybe he would have gotten the message. I don't know, but it's possible.
There's like this thing that happens as part of college. It's, people from all over the world end up in shared space when they didn't necessarily have to have that before. Because this is a parent asking other parents for help. The real question doesn't boil down to what I think this parent is asking, which is, what should I do? To me, the real question is, how do you advise your student? Right, because as a
parent, you can't do anything. And I don't think you should. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I do think that it's a level of conflict, and it's probably one of the first levels of conflict that your child now moving into adulthood is going to experience. We all know, once you get into the workplace, you're going to experience different levels of conflict that you have to address, and you learn along the way how to address it, right? So here's your first lesson. So the parent shouldn't do it. It should be the kid. Yeah, you can take ideas from your parent, but the kid itself should be the person who does it, definitely not the parent.
If you're advising the teen who's listening right now, the young adult who's listening, they're freshmen in college, they're having this issue, what is your advice? Auntie Jamie.
If it was Mike, I would tell Mike, you need to have a conversation with your roommate, like not in passing, but like a real sit down. We need to sit down and talk about this and maybe find out what is the history of this and where does it come from. And can I just segue for a second and say, I buy things a lot, right? Just side note, but it relates. I don't buy like one lotion, I'll buy 4. And so my friend was like, why? Why do you buy 4 though? Like, they're not running away. They're still going to be at the store. Why do you buy 4? And she was like, were you like deprived
of
lotion as a kid? And so I was laughing at it, but the question made sense, right? Like, why do you feel the need to buy 4? So I bring that back to maybe ask the person, why do you feel the need to not cleanup behind yourself. Like, what's going on in your history that says this is okay? Maybe it sparks some type of internal thought within them, because her question certainly sparked it within me. So maybe, asking what's the root of the problem will help them try to figure out, what really is my issue, because this is nasty.
First, I would say that your grown adult friend asking you as a grown adult, you two are mature adults and can do some self-introspection, is way different than an 18-year-old asking another 18-year-old. You don't have the tools to diagnose, and they don't have the tools to diagnose themselves. Here's my advice, and I'd like you to read what I think is the best advice that I saw.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
If it was my kid, I would say have the conversation in whatever way you naturally want to have it. If it's cursing them out, if it's yelling, make a natural noise to this person and object to what's happening. Depending on what they do, not what they say, but what they do in the next week, be ready to pack your stuff and go to another room. Because at the end of the day, you don't have the ability to change them.
True.
You're not their parent. I know it might feel like they're winning, right? But what is really winning when you get vermin as your roommates?
Right.
There's no winning except for escaping that.
In my mind, the person who's winning is the person who leaves and lives in the clean space. That's the person who's winning, period.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, if that means you have to talk to the RA or talk to the person at the desk downstairs or residence life, just make the case. You graduated high school, you're brilliant, you're off to college, you have the ability to formulate an argument or to present a case, be it in writing or in person, say, here's what's happening in my room, here's how it's impacting my studying and my ability to sleep. I need an accommodation made. And that's going to happen. And if you have a problem with that, after you've done that, call Dad and I will back you up. But we're not going to try to change people. That's way too much time spent.
True.
So here's the last piece, which I thought was really good. Again, this is a parents group, so it's parents talking to other parents.
Yeah.
And this parent wrote back, rewind to the time that we didn't have social media. Guess what? When we were in college, we had to work things out for ourselves. Think back to the 90s. These kids, young adults, have to start solving problems and developing skills to manage and handle stress. Like others said, they need to have a conversation about a cleaning schedule or report to RA or dorm director. Especially with COVID going on, people should want to be clean. The first part of that message was, again, it's back to we have too much access at this point. We are commiserating and microanalyzing every single engagement that we hear from these kids and trying to solve the problems ourselves from a distance as their parents, taking on that stress when it really is part of their development process.
Yeah. It's funny that the person says that. I agree with them, the child should advocate for themselves. But in that message, it also reminds me of kind of like Power School and how, like you said, we have entirely too much access into their lives. Too much access into their lives allows us too much feedback.
Yep.
And it doesn't allow them to make their own path. So, yeah, let them do that.